Okay, my friends, hold on to your helmets. Another shocker du jour. What is this up on Mars? What is that? You ever seen anything like that before? Is that a weathering pattern? Is that a meteor impact? What do you think it is? Take a little time and look at it and think about what it is. They call it the Mars crab. Well, could it be a crab? What do you think it is? I think I can show you exactly what it is. So, give it a minute. Just stop, pause for a minute, and come up with a conclusion. What do you think it is? All right, and then I'm going to discuss it. Here we go. Okay, let's look at this thing carefully. We got something going on here. It looks like a face. Who knows what that is? Something is in the center of this round thing. Then we got all these little legs coming out of it. What's that going on? What's this little curlicue up at the top? It looks like a question mark. Well, let's back out of this a little bit. And again, this is up on Mars. This was taken by the Curiosity back in 2014. Now look at what you see here. That's where this is. You see, it's a blow up of that right down there. What is all this stuff? All these tiny, 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 and then up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, over and over and over and over, tiny, tiny, tiny. What's going on with that? And this stuck right in the middle of that. And all of this really red, fine, fine dust. Now I have another shot of this. Might be better, I don't know. You see all that fine dust? All right, and you see this right here? You see that big square looking thing? What's that going on? And what is all these little tiny things? And apparently this red dust must have come out and run out from these little tiny layers in between as it eroded. Now, what would it be if that's what happened? Because all that dust is over here. It is a red planet. So this is not unique. There's a lot of this exact same structure up there on Mars, as there is on Earth. There's no big difference here. But what did it do? And what is that all about? All right, I'm going to show you what it's all about. This is biology. All right, the reason I'm doing this video today, they just came out with this about the, exploring Mars, and this is the lander, and it went all around these little craters, and they're making a big thing of how there must have been water on Mars at one time to create these, and they're saying these are meteorite impacts. Okay, just came out today. This is from the Perseverance rover, probing secrets of an ancient Martian lake. Now, I have some secrets that I'd like to have probed myself, and they're just talking about they can see all these runoff and so forth, and there must have been water at one time, which is not, there's not a lot of it up there, if there is any at all, who knows. Okay, so don't forget, this is the crab. And I said all about these little lines and all these little stripes. What could that possibly be about? That's just not natural. Normally, you would think that rocks would not erode in that manner, because this is clearly erosion of some sort. Well, what eroded? Here's what eroded right here. These are muscle sarcomeres. All right? What a sarcomere is, these are little pinchers. This is pinched together muscle. This is relaxed muscle. All of these little lines, and if you can see those little tiny lines there, those are the lines we're seeing up on those samples up on Mars. And these are the eroded spots in between. They erode because they're blocks. They're little blocks of muscles. And they're pretty much basically glued together. That's a glue, and it unglues. And that's precisely what you see here. Is all of this stuff is unglued in between, and these are the sarcomeres, which they would have pinched together if that red stuff was viable and the whole thing was working and was alive. Now, it requires tons, and I mean literally tons, of red blood coming from arteries with blood vessels that go into into a muscle, to give them the nutrition and the oxygen and so forth to perform tasks. there's huge amounts of blood that run into muscles. As I will show you, I have one here in my shop, and it's just saturated with blood. Now, that one right up on the top, that's the vein. So the artery brings the blood down and flushes it into everybody, and the vein brings the blood back after it gets used. So don't forget, this is the sarcomeres. All right, and these are all the little connective tissues, and that's why they didn't erode. The bloody stuff that pinches, it erodes. You got to have something that's tough. This is the tough stuff, and you got something that's gooey, and that's the gooey stuff. Okay, so I showed you the muscle that's up on Mars, and these are the sarcomeres, just like this, the same as they are up here, and they are the sarcomeres, which I just showed you right up here. And guess where else they are? They are Petra. All right, here's Petra right here. These are sarcomeres. That's how big this is. This is literally an artery, and they carved into the blood that's in the artery like they were carving into the Mars crab. And this is the sarcomere sitting on both sides of the Mars crab. Basically the same identical thing. All right, here's where we got with the Mars crab. Here it is right here. All right, it's sitting right in between this same sort of stuff. And they carved right into it to make Petra. Now, can I show it even better than that? Yes, I can. So we saw this Petra. Inside Petra is this. That's the inside of Petra. This is nothing more than red blood up here. And this is connective tissue, and it's inside of the body tissue. Above Petra is all of this stuff, which is connective tissue and muscle attached to connective tissue. This is inside. They chipped away and got inside there. Now, this is what it looks like from a very long distance away. You see that? There's Petra. You see these carvings here, that coming through here, and this one going over here, and this one coming out there? Those are arterial passageways for blood. This was the main feeder, it appears to me. And see these? These are all sarcomere blocks. You see them? Those are all sarcomeres. All right, I'm going to come close up with the camera, because you can see them pretty good if you look. You see them? Those are all those little blocky looking sarcomeres. This was just one big gigantic chunk of muscle, and it had to be fed with a lot of blood, and that's where the blood runs, right there, through those arterial passageways. And they just carved this, and I think they carved it when it was moist, and they just sort of like putty and chopped it out of there, because this stuff didn't happen that long ago. You see this here? These are muscle sarcomeres, yeah? The whole thing is right up there on the side of Petra there. Those are the sarcomeres. A lot of things that we thought we didn't think correctly. And it's just too over the top for the average mind to allow themselves to think about realistically. It is that much of a paradigm shift. Everybody thinks they sort of have a good idea what's going on. Nobody has any idea what's going on, because all of this stuff has been suppressed, really, even before Jesus Christ. I don't think anybody knew about this stuff, although they did in the ancient myths, and like Apollodorus and Hesiod and all that. Yeah, they were talking about these same kind of things, but everybody thought they were crazy, and Enoch, and they just said, don't talk about that stuff, everybody will think you're crazy. And that's what's happened. Even like me, people say, you can't talk about that, everybody think you're crazy. Well, they do. I don't care. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Show me I'm wrong. I'm showing you I think I'm right. So we're just going to keep moving forward. So let's keep on. All right, so I said I have one of those here in my shop. Don't forget the real red spot, and then all of the muscles. Here's a muscle right here. This is where the red stuff was, and this would have had legs coming out of it too. just like the one below. This is all red. This was all saturated with red blood at one time. It's just eroded out here. Red runs off. You see how it's running out here? This is all arteries up here feeding this muscle. Muscles take tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and about more tons of red blood to pinch. And these are sarcomeres. Now, you can't see these sarcomeres because you need an electron microscope to see them. They're in here. There's about a bazillion of them in a row. What this right here is the attachment between muscle, which is red, and tendon, which is not. It's brown. Tendon doesn't require any blood to speak of, very, very little. And then that tendon attaches to a bone, and I'll show you another shot that has the bone. But don't forget, this is where the crab would have been. It was like it's upside down, more or less, up on Mars. This is down on the bottom, and the muscles are surrounding it and come up for blood. Anyway, it's the same deal. And again, this is the abrupt transition between tendon and muscle. And you always have a tendon attached to a bone, which is the anchor, and the tendon is just a little bit of springiness, and then you have the muscle, which does all the really work. All right, this is the same one I just showed you with the muscle and the tendon, and up here is the bone, and here it is, the same one is in here. It's fully shown with the bone. The bone is right here, and it attaches right with a pin. Look at that. I'm telling you, this is just incredible. There's a pin right here, and that center of that tendon, it locks it tough, so it can still wiggle a little bit. It can, spin a little bit like that, but it's tagged in with that pin, locked into the bone, so that it can jiggle around with it, and this can go a little bit of the way and this way because there's all these little layers in here, and they can slide amongst themselves. That's what all these tissue layers are all about, because you got to flex and move all these things. All this stuff is doing this and that and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of gooiness going on in here, and that's what you saw running out, and it was all running down at the Mars crab. So that's the bone, that's the tendon, that's the muscle. Bone is up here, tendon, muscle, blood. All right, now my muscle with the blood and all that stuff is very small compared to that. That thing's just absolutely enormous. And just as all the stuff up on Mars was, there was just giant creatures just like there is here. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the same kind of stuff at Petra. I will show you that towards the end. This is another structure that's up on Mars, or not structure, it's another landscape, and it's called the Mars Morse Code. Now look at that. You say, ooh, what the heck is going on here? Because they look at it and they said, oh, they look like dots and dashes and dots and dashes. Well, there's a couple things you can take away from this here. First of all, look at the pattern of weathering. There's no watery runoff. There's nothing. So this is a fairly recent sandblasting. They say there was a lot of water on Mars at one time. Well, this is after that, because there's not a single rivulet, there's no indication of any moisture that ever touched this surface. All right? Now, what else do we see here? This seems to be a little squishy, and this looks a little squishy, and this is like stretched, and there's straps attached to these balls. Now, this is risen up here in this area, and the balls are still there because they are the tough stuff. The balls are all over Mars, and they call them the Mars blueberries in another area I was shown. They're these balls. The straps erode away. See how it's eroding. It'll erode back there. And the straps are not as tough as the balls, and the rest of it was at one time flesh, eroded right away. All right, and this is not squished up fascia here. All right, this is basically fascia, interstitium, you call it what you want, but it's the webbing that holds your body together. So you can crunch yourself together, and then you pull yourself apart, and they're supposed to be, the balls are locked in to certain places, and everything's supposed to come back to where the balls were. Well, this is pinched skin, that's pinched, and this is stretched. I'm pretty sure this is skin. And I'll show you what interstitium looks like. Remember this pattern. You see this? This is what skin is like. All right, so you got your skin. If that eroded away, what would you see? You would see just exactly like this. You'd see a whole batch of little webbing running through here so that your skin could go this way and twist and pinch and pull apart, stretch and all that stuff. But it has to come back to where these balls were anchored. They are the return place. Now, why would you be able to stretch this? First of all, these are all collagens and keragens. Collagens are stretchy elastics. They're just made basically out of elastic. And then the keratin, I think, is a little tougher, and this brownish stuff is like a spring. You see how it comes around here, and some of them come all the way around these things? These are bags full of water. That's the moisture to keep your skin plump. And then when you pull it, these can flatten out, because this is gummy, remember, and this is springy. So you can pull it and it goes gummy this way, gummy, gummy, gummy. When you let go, the springs take over and they open up the bags and bring them back to where they're supposed to be. And the balls are the anchors for the springs. Okay, that's the interstitium. I hope I explained that okay. It's not that confusing. It's just your skin, and then below that you have a fluid-filled highway, which is this white stripe. This is the same here looking at a real picture of your skin. And these are all the little balls underneath, and there's a billion zillion straps in there, and you can do all kinds of things. And this is a fluid-filled highway, and this is basically the skin. So remember this, remember that. All right, let me show you something. Remember, this is the skin at the top, this is the interstitium, and if you eroded that away, just like up on Mars, the black balls don't go away. The black balls don't go away. The straps can go away. All of the interstitium is just that, the floppy stuff, the collagen just erodes. Very simple. It turns into literally mud. Can I show you that? I think I can. All right. There it is right there. That's the same stuff we saw up on Mars. And it makes all the Mars blueberries, which are the same thing as the Moki marbles. Right there. These are in Utah and Arizona. And these are nothing more than the Moki marbles, only a little bit supersized. This is Huntington Beach in the United Kingdom, and that is the white skin at the top, and this is the red flesh underneath of it. And it has eroded away, eroded away, eroded away. The balls, which are tough as hell, do not erode. They're just laying here in the mud, which was at one time this creature's flesh. What it is, I have no idea. The Earth is literally constructed of biology, my friends. And that is not just me saying that. Jesus Christ said that. He says, when you find out what the Earth is made of, you'll find a corpse. He's right. That's what I found. So don't forget, this is the Mars Morse code. These are turned into the Mars blueberries, and it's just eroding away. It shows that Mars is just an extremely dry place. There's no place on Earth that you could see this or any of these other features because of erosion. There's too much water on Earth. So this is absolutely 100% certain this is Mars in my estimation. There's no question whatsoever. You can't get this kind of a dusty, dry surface without some kind of rivulets or some kind of erosion, something. So I'm going with Mars for sure, because everybody's going, oh, I know this is Mars. Well, I know it's Mars. Now, remember I said these little blueberries are the same thing as the Moki marbles, which are these, which are the same thing as these. And let's go up to Mars, and they are here, right there. The Moki, they call these the blueberries. This is the basement layer. It's exactly the same as out in Arizona and Utah, where they have a basement layer and they have the same balls. And these are like mineral dense. They're some of them are metals. It depends how they preserved, because everything is dependent upon the conditions and what kind of It was pH, the acid, the salts, how long it was there, how hot it was boiled in that area, how deep the water was, how flowing it was there a lot of transition metals in there. When you see all these colors and these dark things like this, that's transition metals. There was a lot of blood probably in this area at one time, and it all eroded away. So there had to be a lot of water here at one time to get to this point without being just. Normally you'd see these in mud if this didn't erode away, but these are just sitting right on the surface. So there had to be a lot of water there at one time. And Velikovsky wrote the story about exactly what they wrote in every single culture on the face of planet Earth. This is what happened. Venus was ejected from the feared god Jupiter. They said Venus was, the fiery comet Venus was born from the feared god Jupiter. And I'm going along with that. This, and then it came and almost hit us, caused our destruction on Earth, the Great Flood and all that, and then impacted with Mars and scraped all the way across Mars. This is wider than the United States. All right, and it's deep. And this was hit by Venus, and you can see the impact on Venus too. Venus was more of an electrical discharge. Here's what happened from Venus, you see it? That's all. If you just showed that to a welder guy, he'd say, yeah, that looks like welding arc. Because Venus spins backwards and has an enormous charge, an absolute enormous charge on Venus compared to the other planets. The other planets are sort of rolling down with the atmosphere. Venus is going with it, but it's going backwards, scrubbing backwards, creating enormous external magnetic fields. And I can show you the magnetic field from Venus. It's just over the top. Now, what else can I show you? I guess that's about it. And there's Mars. And I'm going to tell you something. They could do things long ago that were very, very strange. And a lot of these ancient myths, even like Jupiter giving birth to Venus. Look at this. This is a red spot. Where is it? I got it around here somewhere. Oh, here it is right here. There's the giant red spot on Jupiter, who was the feared god Jupiter, gave birth to the fiery comet Venus. That red spot is literally a vagina. And I mean, I'm serious. If you don't want to see planet porn, well, don't watch, because I'm going to show you what happens when a planet is born from a planetary vagina. I suppose that's probably the first time anybody has used that phrase. Here it is right here. I'll tell you right now, that's the clitoris, however you want to pronounce it. This is literally the hairline. You see this? This is the red spot. They came right up there and they took this picture of it. This is the vaginal canal. This is not a storm. And this is a vagina. And this right here sealed the deal for me. That right there, that tag, you see this? You see this, and you see this, and you see that tag? That's exactly what is in a female body part, a vagina, that tags it into the body. Everything has to be basically snagged in somehow, locked into the rest of the systems. And this is the part that holds this whole assembly here. You know, I guess you could look at it in that way. Just pay attention to this. Don't forget that right there. That's the key. All right, look at that very, very, very carefully. That little tag coming across there. You see it? This is just over the top crazy. I mean, I have no explanation for this other than it is what it is, and this is what it is. Now let me show you what a real human vagina looks like. If you don't want to see some very graphic detail, then go have a cup of coffee, but stick around if not. All right, here it is. That's that little tag I was talking about. You see that? It's exactly identical. Exactly identical. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever. All right, and that is what locks that body part in. This is where all of the hairline is. That's the clitoris right there. Now, this is a mound. It's called the Venus Mons up on Mars, up on Jupiter as well. And when that, well, I'll show you what happens. It makes a cloud swirling. It's not a storm. It's a vagina. All right, Jupiter spins very fast. And this is a bump. It's called the Venus Mons. It's just exactly what it's called on a woman for a vagina. The bump above the vagina is the Venus Mons, and that's the Venus Mons. And it is going this way, that bump, bumping into these clouds that are coming this way, and they have to swirl around. And that's what creates this pattern here. It has nothing to do with a storm. This has to get out of the way of this bump that has to come through here as the planet spins.